Coming up on Network Africa. Death toll from last week's protest in Uganda rises to 45. United Nations urges Ethiopian authorities to ensure protection of civilians as the government says it won't allow AU envoy into Tigray. Plus, a South African judge to file criminal complaint against former President Jacob Zuma. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoki. Let's begin with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
Polls closed in Burkina Faso on Sunday after a presidential and parliamentary election dominated by the threat of Islamist violence prevented voting in hundreds of villages. Counting began immediately after polling stations closed in an election analysts expect to produce tight results. It could go to a second round if no candidate wins more than 50% of the vote. President Roch Kabore is seeking a second five-year term but faces stiff opposition from former finance minister and 2015 runner-up Zephyrin Diabre, as well as Eddie Komboigo, head of Blaise Compaore's party. Compaore was president for 27 years until a 2014 revolution. In East Africa, dozens of refugees fleeing war in Ethiopia's Tigray region continued to cross the border into Sudan on Sunday. People were seen carrying heavy quilts, bicycles, and even small suitcases off a river boat. Fleeing Ethiopian government troops who launched an offensive early this month against regional authorities they accused of staging a surprise attack on federal forces.
I can't say nothing. So what is the world is seeing us silent? Why is he silent? What is the need to give us a bread here? We were potentially helping a lot of people, but now we are begging a bread here. Why he see us like this?
The conflict erupted on November 4th and has killed hundreds, possibly thousands, and more than 30,000 refugees have fled to Sudan, according to the United Nations. Finally, dozens of migrants, many of them exhausted, arrived on Sunday at the port of Aguinegin in Spain's Gran Canaria after being rescued from the Atlantic Ocean. 3 of them needed medical attention and were carried on stretchers and wheelchairs when the rescue boat docked. Earlier, Spain's foreign minister said it will increase its police presence in Senegal to tackle criminal networks behind an upsurge in illegal migration from the West African coast to its territory.
To our main stories now, police in Uganda say the death toll from last week's protest has gone up to 45. That includes 39 men and 6 women. Local media reports that most of the shooting was carried out by plainclothes operatives who were recorded by members of the public brandishing guns in the streets. Friday last week, the security minister announced that police and other security forces have a right to shoot and kill if protesters reach a certain level of violence, especially as 11 officers had been attacked and injured by protesters. Sporadic protests broke out in the capital Kampala and other towns as demonstrators called for the release of presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine, who was arrested at a campaign rally. After 2 days in detention, he was charged with flouting coronavirus prevention restrictions, but later granted bail. However, he is now back on the campaign trail. Well, joining us now for more analysis of this is Achike Chude, an African affairs analyst. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa. Tell us, what do you make of these developments in Uganda, even as election day approaches?
Well, unfortunately, it's an occurrence that could easily have been avoided. The impression you have is that it's that of one man trying to assert his will over a country that he has dominated for 36 years, about 37 years since he came to power, and that is Yoweri Museveni. He seems to be trying to assert his will against the will of the generality of the Ugandan people. And that is what is responsible for this. Obviously, it's a well-known fact that Bobby Wine, after years of activism, has decided to throw his hat in the ring and challenge Yoweri Museveni for the presidency of Uganda. Of course, we know that he has lived out his, seen out his term, but tried. They went on a constitutional amendment to change the term limit. I mean, the age limit for the presidency of Uganda, and this is why again he's running in 2021. So all of these things has, increased the public angst against him. Of course, when you look at the issue of the economy and then the issue of the welfare of the Ugandan people, the terrorist activities and acts of violence that have been going on in Uganda for some time. So all of these things have constituted a potpourri of issues over which Bobby Wine is entering, into the ring. And obviously, the government of the day, especially the president, is afraid of the popularity of Bobby Wine, who has received a lot of support from Ugandans across board. Do not forget that he has the age is on his side. About two-thirds of two-thirds of the population of Uganda is less than 30 years old. And so these are the people that constitute a very high demography when it comes to the issue of the election. And this is just essentially what it's all about. It's about one man's ambition standing against the will of the people of Uganda.
So, yeah, indeed, Bobby Wine is the main challenger to President Yoweri Museveni. So are you saying that, do you think Bobby Wine is, capable of ousting him at the polls come January 2021?
Well, if I do not think so, certainly the president of Uganda and then the ruling party believe that it's a threat. If it's not a threat, they won't bother with all these measures to intimidate him and intimidate his supporters. About 45 of about 37 or 40 something people have lost their lives according to police reports. And if a national police will tell you this report is going to come from the authority in Uganda, it will tell you that perhaps the number is significantly much higher. But like I said, the reality is that he is seen as a very formidable opposition to the ruling party and to the president of the day. Otherwise, all of these high-handed tactics to intimidate him and to cow him and his supporters would not be considered necessary. It's simply because he's seen as a threat. And I think that he has the ability to win the presidency of Uganda. But of course, we know that if it's about demography, if it's about having the votes, I believe the people are sufficiently angry enough. I know so many Ugandans, over 65% of Ugandans were not happy that the president extended the age for the presidency of Uganda, giving himself, more time to run. He's 75 years old. And so there is that belief that Bobby Wine would constitute a formidable challenge to his, his continuity in power. That of Yoweri Museveni. That's why they are harassing him. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Achike Chude, African Affairs Analyst. Thank you for speaking to us on Network Africa.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
The United Nations has urged Ethiopian authorities to ensure the protection of civilians as the army plans to attack the capital of the northern region of Tigray. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed announced the 72-hour deadline for the region's fighters to surrender. And the army is warning Mekel's 500,000 residents that soldiers would encircle the city and attack it. The Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, which controls the mountainous region, has vowed to keep on fighting. Now, the conflict has reportedly killed hundreds and displaced thousands in recent weeks, with the United Nations warning it could trigger a humanitarian crisis. Meanwhile, a senior aide to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says the African Union envoy appointed to mediate in the conflict between Ethiopia's government and the northern Tigray state will not visit the war-torn region. AU President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa on Friday appointed former Mozambican President Joaquim Chissano, former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and former South African President Kgalema Motlanthe as special envoys to mediate in the crisis. But Mamo Mitrehu, who's the senior advisor to Ethiopia's prime minister, says the three former presidents will only meet Mr. Abiy, as it would play an even more significant role if they put pressure on TPLF to surrender, adding that the three envoys will also be updated by the prime minister on the ongoing operation. Well, let's speak now to a senior lecturer at the Nasarawa State University joining us now, Chukwemeka Eze, for more on this. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Now, Ethiopia says the AU envoys appointed to mediate in this Tigray crisis will not be allowed to visit the region. What impact do you think this is likely to have on the mediation?
The impact it will have on the mediation is that the misery of the people of Tigray will continue, the war will continue, and the work of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union will be hindered. And Ethiopia will be breaching its obligation under the protocol to the establishment of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union, from where Article 7 empowers the Peace and Security Council to mediate on disputes, to intervene in this manner and ensure that peace is discussed and maintained. So if Ethiopia maintains its position, that means definitely it is reaching its obligations under the protocol. And like I said, the misery of the people of Tigray will continue. And it will be, Ethiopia will be setting a bad precedent where some other countries in the future can on their own resist the peaceful or amicable intervention of the African Union.
Well, we do apologize for that poor audio. Moving on, we go to Somalia, where at least 2 people have been killed after tropical cyclone Gati hit the coastal parts of northern Somalia. 2 fishermen have lost their lives and 4 others have been injured as the cyclone hit Hafun district in Kakar region, where strong winds damaged some houses. Local media says the cyclone has also cut communications and electricity in parts of Kakar as heavy rains continue. According to the weather service, the port city of Bosaso is receiving heavy rains accompanied by powerful winds, raising fears that the cyclone might make landfall there. Now, with health workers on strike in Zimbabwe, pregnant women in the country are facing greater risks of complications during this COVID-19 era. Access to hospitals have also become more restrictive because of the lockdowns. Now, when COVID-19 broke out in Zimbabwe, health workers, like many other people, were fearful of the new disease, and the uncertainty around the pandemic resulted in disruptions. With facilities closed, many expectant mothers are now cut off from their primary and closest health professional. However, there are some innovations created now in reaching the women in rural areas.
Initially, about 75% of Zimbabwean women used to deliver under skilled attendants. In other words, under a qualified service provider. Whether it's a midwife, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a nurse who is not a midwife, but is qualified care. But this went down from 75% skilled attendants. We were probably getting about 20% skilled attendants. There used to be hospitals providing cesarean sections for difficult births. But then with COVID now, getting transport to get to the hospital was a problem. So what happened? A number of women were struggling to give birth And by the time they arrive in hospitals, they actually are fatal. They die. Because they couldn't get to the facilities, we look for the food distribution center, where the health providers of that district will be there that day to also assess nutrition and piggyback some of the maternal health services.
Really, our antenatal care numbers have gone up this year. Actually, figures, when we looked at our figures up to the end of September, we are up by 25% from what we anticipated, which is up 25% from last year's values. That's the same as well as institutional deliveries that are happening within our facilities.
Still ahead on the program. Anti-foreigner protests rock Durban in South Africa. We'll give you more details. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. We continue in South Africa, where a judge leading an inquiry into corruption in South Africa has said that a criminal complaint will be laid with the police against former President Jacob Zuma after he walked out of a hearing last week. Mr. Zuma had tried to get Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo removed from the inquiry, accusing him of bias. But when that bid failed, the former president and his lawyer did not return to face questions. Now, at least 34 witnesses have directly or indirectly implicated Mr. Zuma, who has denied any wrongdoing. The commission, which has been hearing testimony since 2018, said it would also urgently approach South Africa's highest court, the Constitutional Court, in an effort to compel Mr. Zuma to comply with the summons. Elsewhere in the country, police have clashed with a military veterans association members in Durban following an anti-foreigner protest. A group of MK vets and supporters have been shutting down all foreign-owned shops in central Durban. Now, the group met in Albert Park and are planning on marching through West Street, the Workshop Point intersection, and end at South Beach. Now, it's a continuation of their actions 2 weeks ago when they forcibly shut down foreign-run businesses at the workshop market. However, the Ekwetini municipality has condemned the actions of the group and called on law enforcement officials to arrest perpetrators. Channels TV spoke to some of the foreign community leaders on the situation.
It's a really unfortunate situation because foreigners are going nowhere and their demands are uncalled for. They are accusing foreigners of things which we are not doing, and we are not the source of the problem of local South Africans. So attacking us, marching against us is not going to be a solution. I think they must get the solution where there is a solution. As we are not their problems, we are creating jobs, we also hire South Africans, and we don't have nothing to do with their problems.
They have a right to make their demand, and I must tell you the truth, most of part of their demand is a very realistic demand. We all know that there are some things that are not in order, which we are working hand to hand to see where we can assist and guide our own people that is not in order according to them. But you should know there's other demand. They also brought up issue of a sharing economy. I don't know what we are going to share because most of our people here are not mostly benefiting from the government. They are working with their whatever they are doing here, they are doing it on their own to survive. And most of them also are legally illegal immigrants, as they also demand that they are illegal immigrants. They don't want illegal immigrants. I must tell you the truth that it is not the issue. The government should look inward and know what the real issue is.
Well, our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, joins us now for more on this. Hello, Betty. Thanks for speaking to us. Just help us understand what this protest is all about.
Well, basically, we had spoken to one of the leaders of the protest, some of the MKMVA veterans who shared a a flyer or their memorandum with a 10-point demand. That memorandum is titled Operation Go Back to Your Country, Enough is Enough. So there's a list of things that they would want. Some of the people that you tracked up just now have spoken about that, and they're saying some of their laws, the labor laws, are more in favor of the foreign nationals at their expense, which I do not think so, because I know that here, for you to apply for a work permit, a South African must not be denied that opportunity. It's only when, and the law states it, when there is no South African to take that job, then whoever is qualified. So they blame the foreign nationals of a string of social ills in the country as well. Some are not unfounded. You have the issue of drug peddling, the issue of cash in transit heists. But it will be wrong to blame that on foreign nationals, as they will readily tell you. So there's so many things, and when they've done this protest before, quite a number of the foreign nationals have been suffering because they're scared to open. Some have actually been attacked. So they took the protest to the Etegwini municipality, but they're not happy. We spoke to them this evening. They're not happy that nobody responded to them or came to collect their memorandum. So they're meeting at this time, and they said they will let us know after their meeting what next, because the protest is supposed to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I will say as well that it's not the entire MKMVA body that is part of this protest that is going on. I know that initially some faction had put out a disclaimer that they're not part of this, but these are veterans of the Konto Wesizwe, and the police played a very important role today, trying to avert what would have been really bad. So they advised the foreign nationals to shut down their businesses. So there will be no looting or looting. We don't know if that will happen later, but as at this morning to this afternoon, it sort of petered out at a point, and people dispersed.
And no doubt this, them being forced to, shut down their shops will have a huge impact on their businesses. Have we heard anything from the government? Has there been any response to this, at least to mitigate?
The government has condemned. Yes, the municipality administration has condemned all the tension, calling for calm, even at the provincial level. And we had spoken to the Minister of Police, Mr. Beki Tlele, who said, look, people have a right to protest, but nobody has a right to loot or attack anybody. If you have issues, raise it with government, but do not go attacking people. And this is COVID times. Many businesses are just trying to open, and then they're too cautious to open because they're scared. So government is saying, please, and police was deployed from last night when they gathered at that Albert Park, and then to today. You saw in the footage stun grenades being used at the point where they were getting a little bit rowdy. But the police was very present today, and even the foreign nationals commended the police for their role in dousing the tension today. But there's condemnation, but we hope something will be done to maybe call the people in to speak to them, to get to hear what they really want and how to go about it.
All right, just before I let you go, Betty, let's talk about former President Jacob Zuma. A criminal complaint is to be filed against him because after he walked out of a hearing last week. Now, what is the likely implication of this on his case?
I guess that incident didn't make him look good. It doesn't make the commission look good, and it impacts on the integrity of the commission if nothing is done about it. So the commission is going to file that urgent application. Apart from the police criminal complaint with the police, that urgent application will seek an order compelling him. The Concord, the Constitutional Court, that's the apex court in the country, has a say to compel him to appear and stay true all through the time that he should be facing that commission. The case is just stalled a little bit, but the Justice Zondo is going to give out a fresh set of dates that he should appear, and fresh summons will be given to him. So there's a bit of a delay regarding his own part or his own testimony during that commission hearing. So he's not going to stop. He has to obey the law. As the law, everybody is equal before the law.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Bessie Dibia, our South Africa Bureau Chief. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
And that's where we end the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.